happy National Rollercoaster Day. Unfortunately, by the time you see this video, it'll be a day or two past, but we're here today on National Rollercoaster Day to see if King's Dominion is doing anything special and to take a look at their 13 roller coasters. We'll be giving you a little bit of backstory behind many of the coasters that actually have a backstory and taking a good look at the track layout and maybe some other fun tidbits around the park, especially looking at the new Tumbly coaster and the Jungle Expedition re-theming of the area that was once the safari area. Here's a look at the updated King's Dominion map for 2022. They reference the new area Jungle Expedition, which we'll be checking out later in the video, and the new coaster Tumbly, which is the 4D free spin coaster. That one is over here, over to the far west of the map. So we're heading all the way to the back of the park to start, even though it may not be the most efficient option. We wanted to hit Twisted Timbers first. It's still a fairly new coaster, and it's an RMC, and people tend to be crazy about RMCs. We're expecting this line to get crazy long, so we wanted to beat the line and ride this one first. It's got that great barrel roll drop right off the bat. This one replaced the Hurler, which was a wooden coaster. That was the last remnant of the Wayne's World area that used to be at this park. I think they did a great job replacing it because that Hurler had seen some better days. It was very rough by the time it was destroyed. At one point I did, believe it or not, actually consider this to be superior to Steel Vengeance, which I consider to be its sister coaster because they're both RMCs. They both opened the same year at Cedar Fair parks. But I'm starting to rethink that now. This one isn't quite as interesting of a track layout as Steel Vengeance. I have to admit, Jen and I were both a little bit disappointed at the condition of the trains over the last 3 years. They've really gone downhill a lot. They need to upkeep them a little better. I think the paint is really peeling badly. I know it's just cosmetic, but it's a little bit of a shame because they were so nice when this first opened. Right across the way from Twisted Timbers is Apple's Apple. Apple's Apple is just your standard mouse coaster. This one was re-themed to an Apple type theme to go along with Twisted Timbers because Twisted Timbers, if you go through the queue, you'll see that that kind of has an Apple theme a little bit. They repainted it. It was originally called Ricochet, but they decided to change the name because we're on the outskirts of an area known as Candy Apple Grove. So they decided to fit the theming with Twisted Timbers. And now also with this. Continuing deeper into Candy Apple Grove, you come to Racer 75, which used to be known as Rebel Yell. They changed the name a few years back. However, regardless of what the name is, it is still an ace roller coaster landmark. Manufactured by Philadelphia Toboggan Company. This is a sister coaster to Kings Island's Racer, which is why they chose the name Racer 75 as the new name. It's just a wooden coaster, out and back, pretty simple track layout, but it's a fun coaster nonetheless. So the gimmick of this coaster and the reason why it's called Racer is there is a red side and a blue side to this coaster, two different tracks that run in parallel. They very, very rarely have both the red and the blue side running. The interesting thing is, today they also, as usual, only had one side running, but it was the blue side. I think this may be the very first time I've ever been here where they had only the blue side running and the red side sitting still. This is the red track right here. Nothing happening, unfortunately. Still in Candy Apple Grove, we come to Delirium. Obviously this is not a roller coaster, however it did replace a roller coaster. The Shockwave which was the last stand-up togo coaster in the United States. It was not a very comfortable ride, so we understand why they got rid of it, but still, it's a little bit of a shame since it was a bit historic. Are you noticing a trend with this park between getting rid of coasters or changing the name of coasters? There's not a lot that's still original from when the park opened here.
Hey guys, you're on. Well, this is one of the songs that you hear now and then. You don't know just where and you don't know just when. It's one of those songs that are over and then. It's one of those songs that start playing again. Yes, it's just one of those songs that you hear for a while, that come into fashion and go out of style. It's one of those songs that you think we forgot, but it's one of those songs you cannot. Well, this is one of those songs that's so easy to hear. You listen just once, then you play it by ear. It's tumbling verandas, it's stuck on guitars, and all you remember is la-di-da-da. Later on you recall it in some other year. You may start to smile or you may shed a tear. You find that one part of your lifetime belongs to one of those wonderful, one of those wonderful, one of those wonderful, one of those wonderful songs.
Formerly known as Safari Village, the area that we're coming up on now was changed to Jungle Expedition, as you saw on the map earlier. This contains the new coaster Tumbly, which replaced the Crypt, which is actually very similar in nature to Tumbly, with a bunch of flips and stuff, but that one was not on a track. That's really the only difference between this 4D free spin and what was known as a top spin. Here you can see Tumbly in action right now. Beyond these trees over here used to be the Volcano coaster, which I miss greatly. It was my favorite coaster at this park. They should be putting something new in at some point, but there's nothing there now. Another coaster gone too soon. Volcanoes Old Station is now themed to a research center for the area. Here's a look at some posters advertising the rides that are currently over here. First is Reptilian, which is the new theme for Avalanche, the bobsled coaster. Then Anaconda, which is their scrambler, which was formerly known as Scrambler. Now it's a bit of a mouthful calling it Anaconda. I think I'll stick with the name Scrambler. And then beyond that is Tumbly, making it look much more exciting than it actually is. Another set of 3 posters of particular note is the mention of the Dews Cavern system, which the land of the Dews, and it also mentions the Haunted River. It was rides that went through the volcano that used to be here, so it's nice to see a shout out to that. So here we go, finally up close and personal with Tumbly. We've only ridden 2 other 4D free spins before, and I believe we've only ridden each one once, so we don't have a whole lot of experience with the 4D free spins. This should be pretty fun. I especially like this entrance archway. That's a lot of detail that they put into that. So Tombili, as it's apparently called, I believe Swahili for monkey or something similar. You know, I'm notoriously bad at pronouncing words in other languages. But anyway, this coaster was pretty fun. It was very similar to the Joker coasters at the Six Flags, which is no surprise because it's the exact same model. But we only got, I believe, 3 inversions, but one of those inversions kind of held us upside down for a little while, so that was a bit unnerving and it made the ride a little more fun. I didn't mind it too much. I would definitely get on it again, but I would also get on the Jokers at the Six Flags parks again, so nothing special compared to the others. However, once you finish riding the ride, the exit comes down here and it leads you directly over to Reptilian, the big orange track over here. As I mentioned earlier, Reptilian used to be known as Avalanche. Yet another name change at this park. They used to have it themed to a bobsled, as most of these mock bobsled coasters were. This is one of the rare ones that has been rethemed to something now other than a bobsled. It now resembles a crocodile. It's hard to get a good look at the front car. But the front car does look like the face of a crocodile. This is a coaster where the two people sit in the same seat, and the front person sits between the legs of the back person, and they share a lap bar. So it can be a little bit exciting because you don't really have the level of restraint that you would have on a lot of coasters. But at the same time, it's not incredibly extreme, so you really don't need too much restraint on this one. That'll do it for the Jungle Expedition area for now. There's a lot to look at in there, and we could probably fill an entire video with just that. So if we come back, we'll probably focus on that a lot more. There's even a little bit of a game to play as you walk around the area. So that'll be fun to look at in a future video. Just outside of that area, however, we come to the Bakalot Stunt Coaster. This is a Premier Rides triple launch coaster. The first two launches are a lot of fun. The first one takes you into what's themed to a parking garage and around a couple of helixes as you climb to the top. And then the second one, there's a little show scene where these white cars are going right now. After the show scene happens with some fire and some gun sounds, the fire may or may not be working. It's temperamental. After that, they launch you again. The third one, it took probably a dozen rides for me to realize where it is. The third launch is coming through this tunnel right down the final drop here. That one doesn't really feel like anything. You're already going at a good enough pace. It's kind of unnecessary. When the park was owned by Paramount, this was themed to the movie The Italian Job, called the Italian Job Turbo Coaster. But like many other rides here, it got a name change. This one makes sense because Paramount obviously no longer owns this park, so they needed to get rid of that IP. And now it's just the Bakalot Stunt Coaster, a clone of other parks, including Kings Island. Just to the left of the Bakalot Stunt Coaster is Anaconda. It's pretty much your standard aero looping coaster. Normally, I say that the aero loopers aren't as bad as people give them credit for. I think this one is worth its reputation. It's not a great coaster, but in honor of National Rollercoaster Day, I'll give it a ride. After riding Anaconda, one detail that's interesting that sets it apart from other aero loopers that I forgot about, 99% of this coaster is over water, and then as you see here, through the trees, after the first drop, you go under the water through a tunnel and come out the other side, which is a really neat feature, and it's fun to get that view when you're actually on the ride. So that makes it a slight tick above other coasters aside from the roughness. Leaving Anaconda, there's a little pathway that goes by a piece of volcano that still stands, a little piece of rock. Goes between an American flagpole and a Virginia flagpole, takes you to this building. The building itself is disguised as a kind of top secret government facility, and for the longest time that's just what it looked like. They kept it secret. But as you can see now, there is a big sign that says Flight of Fear. And inside of this building is the Flight of Fear coaster, which, keeping with the theme, the name changed once Paramount sold the park. It was once called the Outer Limits Flight of Fear. This is an indoor launch coaster, and as a matter of fact, it was the first LIM launch coaster on the East Coast. So it was installed in the mid-90s. It's been around for a while. It is very nearly, but not exactly, a clone of the Aerosmith Rock and Roller Coaster at Disney. There are a couple of small differences, but the launch is from 0 to 54 miles per hour. It's a pretty intense launch. A lot of fun, a lot of dark spaces. It is also a clone of the Joker's Jinx at Six Flags America. It says a lot about Six Flags America that is my favorite coaster at that park, but this one is just kind of mediocre here compared to the other coasters that they have here. And because the queue is indoors, I can't really get any good video of it because it's very dark, but there's a lot of good theming in there, a lot of alien technology. You actually walk inside of a UFO at one point, so that's an interesting feature. Once you exit Flight of Fear, you come immediately to Intimidator 305. This is probably the most famous coaster at this park, and it's, as the name indicates, 305 feet tall. Intimidator is one of only 7 Giga coasters in existence, and of those 7, 5 of them are in North America. We've had the privilege of riding 4 of them, the only outlier being Orion, which we hope to ride in the near future. This one is far and away the most intense of the Giga coasters. In fact, even though it's the most famous coaster at this park, it very rarely has a long line. There's usually almost nobody riding it, and that's the case right now as well. It's too intense for most people, and to be honest, it's almost too intense for me. It's usually a 1 ride per visit type coaster. Even though it's fun, it's kind of hard to handle the curve after the first drop, but it's a fun ride once you get past that. The downside to Intimidator is that it leads you to a dead end in the park, so we had to backtrack back through the Jungle Expedition section, and now we're heading toward Planet Snoopy, where there are 2 coasters, surprisingly, in the kids section. Just past the fun Snoopy topiary is the Great Pumpkin Coaster. This coaster with its purple track and giant jack-o'-lantern tunnel, well, not a tunnel, but just an archway that the ride passes through, is a true kiddie coaster, so we're not able to get on it, but I figured I would record a little bit of it just to give it a bit of a shout out. Since this is National Rollercoaster Month, we wanted to include this one as well, whether we can ride it or not. Literally immediately past the Great Pumpkin Coaster is the Woodstock Express. The Woodstock Express, formerly themed to Scooby-Doo and known as the Ghoster Coaster, while the park was under Paramount's control, is a short little wooden coaster out and back design. It reminds me a lot of a miniature version of the Comet at Hershey Park. Jen and I have to sit in separate seats on this one because this is a really tiny train, but it's a lot of fun to be so small. Leaving Planet Snoopy and heading toward the front of the park, you come to Dominator, a B&M floorless coaster transplanted from Geauga Lake. The loop was at one time, and maybe is still, the tallest loop on a floorless coaster. And as you can see how tall that is with that train going by. Not roller coaster related, but I have a confession to make. I don't mind dropping hundreds of feet. I don't mind going upside down. But one thing I do not like is being held upside down. And that is what this pirate ship at King's Dominion does, aka the Berserker. This one will get you going up in the air real fast, and it'll take you completely upside down. It doesn't actually hold you upside down, but it feels like it does, and that's a very uncomfortable feeling, so I have to admit that this is a rare ride that scares the living daylights out of me. I've ridden it a handful of times, but I've hated every single one. Apparently a lot of people aren't big fans of this because it's running right now, but nobody's in line for it. That's why it's sitting still, and I can't get any footage of it actually being upside down. So with Dominator, we reached the front of the park, so we should be just about done, right? Well, no, it wouldn't be us if we did things in a logical order that made sense. So we're here in the Old Virginia section of the park now for Grizzly, our last coaster. Grizzly, suspiciously enough, you have to go through a gift shop to get to the entrance, instead of the other way around where you would normally exit through the gift shop. Through this gift shop, you used to come out to where Dinosaurs Alive would be, which they recently, well, a couple years ago got rid of. We haven't been here since they got rid of Dinosaurs Alive, so we're not entirely sure what it looks like out here now. But there's a short walking path to the right is a go-kart track, which is an upcharge attraction. I believe it is $10 a person, but don't quote me on that. To the left, a sculpture of a grizzly bear. And that grizzly bear has been here for as long as I can remember. Looks very angry. Almost as angry as you feel for riding Grizzly, because it is a rough wooden coaster. Here's your entrance. Narrow walkway. Station and track going back into the woods. Over here is where Dinosaurs Alive used to be. It looks like they haven't done anything to this area yet. It's still gated off. Let's see. Grim Woods back there. I don't know how well you can make that out, but it looks like they might do a haunted walkway now during Halloween Haunt now. Oh. Well, if I seem a little bit frazzled, that's because Grizzly was a bad ride last time we were here, but man, it is so much worse now. It is in desperate need of a retracking, and that was a rough ride. Jen actually opted to not ride it with me. I ended up riding it alone, and she made the exact right choice. Going up the lift hill, the train was tilting from side to side. It felt like the wheels were off the track at various times going up that hill. It was a little bit freaky, and I did not enjoy it at all. But that was the last of our coasters here. We hope you enjoyed the little tidbits, and if you did enjoy the video, we would appreciate it if you could subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Every subscribe and like really helps out the channel. And we would also appreciate it if you would take a look at our Instagram channel, which is appearing down in the corner right now, to see photos from this trip and for future trips. Thanks for watching our video. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching, but the fun's not over yet. Click the box in front of my face for another fun video, or click my tree to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss another video.